The Aaron Rodgers power play continues as the Jets went out there and got a third-round pick and shipped it out to Vegas on the Strip for Davante Adams. And him and Aaron Rodgers had a little viral moment where Adams popped up in the background of Aaron Rodgers' interview on McAfee, and it went viral and all that stuff. And again, this was all in cahoots. This was all a thing that was supposed to happen. We've been waiting for this thing to happen. Naturally, since the Raiders got Derek Carr about the paint, it was kind of a well-known secret that Davante Adams wanted no parts of Jimmy G. I mean, we saw that on Netflix. He damn sure didn't want no parts of Aiden McConnell or Gardner Minshew. Man just out here allegedly faking an injury just to buy time for the Raiders to finally come to their senses and move on from Davante Adams. They were trying to get a first-round pick. They were trying to get a second-round pick. Teams were only offering a fourth-round pick, and because other teams were in the mix, and by other teams, I mean the Buffalo Bills were in the mix, and we'll get to the move that they had to now spin the block and do because they were in the Davante Adams sweepstakes, allegedly. And now if you're the Jets and you just went toe-to-toe with the Bills on Monday night at the crib, and you could even argue probably should have won that game, all right, now the Bills are now a team that was lacking in weapons. That's not the narrative I heard after the first 3 weeks of the season when they were 3-0 and everyone was saying Josh Allen is right there with Mahomes now. See, Josh Allen didn't need Stephon Diggs. It was not the whole narrative that myself and others have been saying that, hey, Diggs made that man. After those first 3 weeks, it was like, see, you guys don't know what you're talking about. You guys are just gaslighting, hot taking, trying to be fake contrarian, et cetera, et cetera. And then those next few weeks happened. And then all of a sudden, Von Miller, when he got a sack, they were 3-0. Von Miller gets popped for the suspension. The defense has not looked the same since. And now all of a sudden, these Bills games are getting hotly contested. 1-2 since the whole Von Miller stuff went down. But again, I get mocked, I get called out, I get chastised. Then a few weeks later, maybe Von Miller is actually important to that Bills team. Maybe Josh Allen really does need weapons. Maybe he can't do it without Stephon Diggs. He really needs a number one wide receiver. So the Bills were in the mix for Davante Adams. And whatever they were offering, I guess the Jets got wind of it, or maybe the Raiders hit the Jets up and said, hey, Buffalo's really trying to get him. So y'all better cough up whatever y'all really going to cough up, final offer, because we about to take this Buffalo deal. And that's probably how that went down. So the Jets went and coughed up a third, probably were trying to get a fourth and lowball the Raiders and forced them into doing it. But backs up against the wall, the Jets forked over what they needed to fork over, which is that third round pick. It's conditional. There's some things in there that can make it a second. But with 11 weeks to go or whatever, it's so astronomically, it is so difficult for Adams to make those benchmarks. I think he has to be all pro and lead and be top something in the league or whatever. There's no chance of that happening, right? So it'll be a third round pick. They gave him up for a third. This goes back to the power play. When Robert Saleh got fired, I went on live real quick. That's on the YouTube channel. Again, for the podcast audience who want to tap into some of all the content, join the YouTube community. The link is in the podcast description. But I went on live and basically talked about the Aaron Rodgers power play and how this was put in stone the minute they got Aaron Rodgers. You know, as much as Woody Johnson wants to come out here and talk about how Aaron Rodgers had nothing to do with the Robert Saleh firing, Aaron Rodgers had nothing to do with the Davante Adams trade, it would be foolish to sit here and watch Allen Lazard get a deal, Randall Cobb get a deal. All these Packers are being flown in. Nathaniel Hackett's the OC. It would be foolish to think that that has nothing to do with Aaron Rodgers. Now, is Aaron Rodgers calling up the Raiders and telling them we'll give you a third? No. But what Aaron Rodgers is doing is probably going to get Mans Douglas and Woody Johnson and tell them, hey, I need Davante. I don't know how much more longer I'm going to be here. This is only a 2-year run. The first year was done after 4 snaps. If we want to salvage anything, we need to be all in right now. And that's the messaging that Aaron Rodgers has been putting out there through his people, is that we are all in. He went on McAfee. He was hyping it up and all that type of stuff. And as you see here, this comes down to money. This has no long-term future beyond this year. Aaron Rodgers' contract is up after this year. And Davante Adams, even though he signed a big deal, was a big number, and everyone was going crazy about all the bread that he got, that bread has a lot of funny money in it, much like all NFL contracts except the one. 5 years, $140 million. This is what got everybody crazy. 5 years, $140 million. Out of that money, 65 guaranteed. So a little bit over half of that bread guaranteed, right? Excuse me, a little under half. A little under half is guaranteed. 22 3/4, just say 23 million at signing, et cetera, et cetera. So the first couple of years, he got the bulk of this guaranteed money. And that's the problem, because there was an out. And you see the out here. The out is after 2025. So after this season, anybody who takes on Davante Adams' contract can get out of it. So it's essentially, this is his last year on this deal. You see the last 2 years here, $35 million the last 2 years. He was never going to get that money. Because we could do the math. That's the 70 that was not guaranteed. If you look at the money here, total guaranteed is 65. That's the bulk between 35 and 70. We can add up. We can do the math. It's about 71 million here over the next 2 years. And it's not guaranteed. So he was never going to get that money. But to say he got 5 years, 140 million, just to make the number sound nice, this is yet another example of funny money. And I think what is ultimately going to come to is that this right here is going to be the precedent for a lot of the players going forward. This deal, where you have a player basically on an expiring contract. So forget these last 2 years, because he was never, even if he would have stayed a Raider, he was never going to get these years. If you give a team the chance to get out from having to pay you the real money, they're going to get out. It behooves them to do so. It forces them to do so. It would be truly incompetent for an organization to pay Davante Adams $35 million over the next 2 years, $35 million each of the next 2 years. It makes no sense. So this money is irrelevant off rip. So the real money was in the first 3 years. So the Jets gave up a 3rd round pick for 11 games of Davante Adams. Now, over those 11 games, what can you expect? Is Garrett Wilson now a number 2? Is Garrett Wilson now the best number 2 in the league by default? Is he better than Jalen Waddle? Is he better than Devonta Smith? We would certainly think so. But I mean, does that do anything in essence for the Jets' chances to be relevant? Are the Jets a better team? Yes. How much better? That remains to be seen, because this offense still looks constipated. This offense still doesn't have an identity. Aaron Rodgers' teams, when he was at his peak, he's going to throw 30 some odd touchdowns and single-digit interceptions. He is not on pace for that for this year. At his peak, he was only throwing like 4 picks. His last MVP season, I think he threw only 4 picks. What's he at, 5 or 6 already? Like, he's not who he is. He's not mobile in the pocket no more. He doesn't have that escapability. He can't run and scramble and do the discount double check. Like, he can't do all of that. That is a time that is gone. The power play is on, though. The power play is amongst us. What if? And we do like to do what ifs. And I feel bad for Devonta Smith. He went to the Raiders because he wanted to go hoop essentially with his mans. He went to go run it back with his college quarterback in Derek Carr. And the Raiders had just given Derek Carr a bag when Davante Adams signed. Derek Carr was on a 4-year deal, a 4-year extension. And then they cut him 6 months later. Do you understand how sick that is? We used Derek Carr to get you here, give you the bag. We realized Derek Carr ain't really it, and we don't care about your feelings of why you originally came here. We're going to get rid of him, and congratulations, you now have Jimmy G, Gardner Minshew, and Aiden O'Connell throwing you spirals. Yeah, I would fake an injury too, allegedly, to get up out of there.